Hey people, welcome to the channel, and I want to share with you guys a short clip. This is a longer video from the Michaela Peterson channel, a first-hand account of someone that actually went through this in UK. I think she makes some great points. Just a couple of minutes I want to share with you. This is, linked to my previous video about the Bonnie Blue nonsense, but that's part of it. The idea of corrupting people, the idea of treating especially young white women as just pieces of meat. That's what they are to them. To whom? Well, to these people. Listen.
On your point about calling them grooming gangs, I know a lot of people would prefer they were called something else. I think it's very important to make the distinction that they are grooming gangs, because this crime is so reliant on the grooming aspect. That's what makes these gangs so complex, so effective, so efficient, and so manipulative in their abuse and exploitation of little girls, is the way that they are able to draw them in and convince them that the abuse that they will go on to perpetrate is normal and is acceptable.
Normalizing, absolute. Again, going back to the 1,057 people this woman was sleeping with. Normalizing complete depravity and perversion beyond any kind of human interaction. No, this is as far gone as you can be. Basically, less than you wouldn't even do that with an animal, right? You wouldn't even do that with an animal. But these women gladly put themselves in that position, but normalizing the treatment of women that way. That woman is willing. What about those that are not? What about little girls? Well, the same happens. The same treatment from these people, from these Pakistani Muslims. Yes, that's exactly what they are. She says it very clearly. Listen.
And so I know quite a few other survivors of grooming believe that grooming gangs are the correct term for it. So absolutely, I agree with you, and I'm happy to continue calling them that. When it comes to child sex exploitation and particularly Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs in the UK, this is an issue that...
Pakistani Muslim. Again, Pakistani Muslim. That's what they are. It is all of them. Oh, but it's not 90%, 87%. It is them. It is them, and it's been that way for a very long time. You don't like it, you don't want to accept it, you get offended, you get triggered, oh, but you're discriminating. No. It is what they are. It is what they are.
That dates back to the 1970s, in Britain, and has been investigated through a series of local reports and local inquiries as of the early to mid 2000s. It is still going on today. Little girls are still being groomed, manipulated, exploited, and abused, and even murdered by these gangs in towns like mine, in Telford, Rochdale, Rotherham, Banbury, Birmingham, across the UK. It isn't centred in certain areas. Oldham isn't the first, nor is it the only town to have suffered this scandal, and it is characterised particularly by groups of Pakistani Asian men of predominantly Muslim religious affiliation.
Muslim men, Pakistani Muslim men, the great enormous majority is that. Since the 70s, they've been doing this, normalizing this, going after little kids, little girls. Mostly white little girls. That's what they get off on. That's what they enjoy. The perversion that they have that's the fixation that they have.
Working together across county lines or within a local area. Many of them will be taxi drivers, many of them will work at local takeaway shops or convenience stores, and they first come in, ply girls with alcohol, drugs, free taxi rides, many of the girls being vulnerable, and then progressively introduce them to the wider gang and will sexually and criminally at times exploit them.
Okay, so I got exposed to this a couple weeks ago, like I said, because Elon was talking about it, and some of the court transcripts came out, and why people are talking about it now. I can't understand why it's been hidden for so long, but I couldn't get over, and so I wanted to talk about it on YouTube to tell people what was going on. how these gangs go about grooming girls so that maybe parents, because if it isn't eliminated, it should be eliminated now, but if it's not, people should at least be aware of how this starts and how to potentially prevent it, or how to know that you're being targeted to be groomed. So can we get into that? Like, what's the pattern?
Absolutely.
What do these people do to kind of entice these girls or pressure them or whatever's happening? Is there a pattern that these people use?
Absolutely. And let me be clear. I don't know, like you said, what YouTube will flag. So please do let me know if I need to change up my language or anything like that. But it is still going on in Britain. It is still happening. I see it on council estates in my hometown. Other victims and survivors and those investigating this and who aren't turning a blind eye see it every day. We know that it's going on. Girls are coming forward that are as young as 13, 14 today, not in the 1980s, not in the early 2000s, today. Children today are coming forward and saying, I am being sexually exploited by Pakistani Muslim men.
Third time she says, Pakistani Muslim men. It's always the same. It's always the same thing, right?
And that is a fact. That's an unavoidable fact. There is a pattern, there is a process and a very clear methodology by which these gangs target young girls. Many victims of Pakistani grooming gangs will be between the ages of 11 and 15,
11.
Although it can be older or younger. There are girls who were first targeted when they were 16, 17, and it is across age ranges. It's across social classes, although again the majority are white working class girls. There are cases where Asian girls or African origin British girls have also been targeted, but the most common victim is a white working class girl.
The great majority of these 11-year-old little girls are white. So it's Pakistani Muslim men, right? Muslim religion targeting little white girls. That's what you have. This is what's being protected in UK, specifically in UK. You know, we have to be honest about that. It is very much in UK. It is in UK something that has been festering like a fucking disease, because it is. It's a social disease, right? A moral disease, and it has reached this point in which it's impossible to hide. It is politically protected. You will be thrown in jail for denouncing them. They will not go to jail for doing it. So you have Tony Robinson dragged to prison, slandered all over the media, even some of these so-called conservative media, some of the right-wing media, no, they just shit all over the guy for calling it as it is. Here you have one of the victims herself, is Pakistani Muslim men going after little white girls. That's what they go crazy over. They love the idea of being sadistic animals towards little white girls. That's what we have. So, folks, what is that you can do? Well, first of all, not live in this shit show of a country, right? That would be the first thing I would advise you not to do. And if you're there, you have my sympathies. Maybe do something so as to get out of there. And if you cannot, because that's also a reality you need to deal with, protect yourself, protect your family. For that, as I always say, you have the content of the channel. I strongly recommend Surviving the Economic Collapse and Street Survival Skills, which are my books, and will give you the right tools to keep your family and yourself safe when out and about. But most of all, the state of awareness that you need so as to identify these threats, right? They go after little girls that may be a little bit more vulnerable. These scumbags, they will usually see if there's a weak home, if there's lack of parents being present and so on. So they will find the weaknesses that they can exploit. But it may happen to anyone. They are animals, are being protected. These are not normal people. Not normal in terms of Western civilization and our values, right? You have criminals everywhere. But this is normal for them. That's why it's over 90% of them Pakistani Muslim men going after little white girls. See you next time, guys. Take care.